Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully, you guys caught that that interview last night. If you didn't, we've got some highlights for you this morning. Because it is still morning, I made it in time, just barely snuck it right in there. I have to say that I deeply, deeply appreciated the shout out that Elon and Trump gave to the ASTROLABE by starting 45 minutes late. I felt that personally. I knew they were thinking of me, and I've never felt more seen, I think is what the kids say. Oh, hold on. I got to send the live now tweet. So you got that live there. And then, man, notifications are flying in this morning. Can't even keep up with them. Let's get this party started. So last night, or yesterday afternoon, after all my times are all mixed up, after I finished the show yesterday afternoon, I checked my phone and saw I had a text from my wife that said water is shut off, plumber is on the way. And we had a couple hours of downright panic because we've been, okay, let's back up a sec here. So last month, our water bill was double what it usually is. And you're like, well, you know, we did water the grass a couple of times, and I like to take long showers periodically. I mean, I do it every month, but maybe I just had longer showers on average or something. But we'll wait and see how things go. And then our upstairs bathroom has periodically been just, I walk over there and randomly it's like backing up, water coming up. And so I'm like, I wonder if these things are connected. So a couple days ago, day or two ago, our neighbor came over and told us, we live on a hill, the next house down from us. He came over and said, hey, realize there's like right in the edge of where the sidewalk, you have the sidewalk and the curb, and then you have there's like a little slab of concrete there before maybe it's part of the curb technically, before it meets the road, meets the blacktop. There's water seeping up through there and running down the hill. And so there was a little back and forth with the plumbing company. First they said, or the water company, first they said it was coming from, first it said it was coming from his house. Then it said it was coming from our house. Then it said it was coming from his house. And then what we found out is actually it was coming from our house. There was a leak, and it was leaking at a rate of 3 gallons per minute. So who knows how long it's been leaking like that. We're rather anxious to see what our water bill is going to wind up being for the past month, because our plan was just give it another month and see if it's high again. Then okay, maybe that indicates there's something wrong. Well, apparently there was something wrong. So yesterday we did have the plumber come out and take a look, and we had a couple of hours of fear that perhaps this leak was somewhere underneath the house, and this is going to be a absolutely massive repair, which would be just incredibly, I mean, there's never a convenient time for something like that, but it would have been incredibly inconvenient to have that happen right now. It turns out that the leak was literally like an inch beyond the sidewalk, just on the other side, right next to the whatever the shit is that they got a little hole there and everything. It was full of water before. It's got all the valves and everything down in it. So they came out, they got it fixed up, and everything is all good, apparently. So We were prepared for trying to line up. Okay, where are we going to have where are we going to take showers? Really glad I just did my laundry. Just had my load of laundry sitting in the dryer. It had just finished. Very grateful for that. But turns out all is well. TBD what the actual water bill is going to be, but hopefully it's not too bad. We'll be splitting at least part of it with our landlord. So, anyways, so this show is the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled, and in particular, it is sponsored by the King Pilled private community on Discord. If you would like to join and become one of the insiders, one of the King Pilled ASTROLABE insiders, the Astrolabians, you could do that. Go to kingpilled.com and sign up. It sounds like there is going to be a schizo stream this Friday night. We've got a couple of different ideas. I think probably what it's going to be. I need to just double check and confirm with everyone that this is actually going to happen. But I believe we've got a couple of guys who have well documented their family trees going back however long. So there's going to be anybody who wants can join in, and if they have documentation of their family tree, wants to talk about where their family comes from, and you know, how long have you been in the U.S. or how long have your family been in the U.S. or Canada, I suppose, as the case may be. How far back does it go? I think that's what the guys are going to be talking about. So if that's something that would be interesting to you, then you are very welcome to join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Sign up. Any subscription tier will get you into the schizo stream on Friday night. But one other little note that just popped up for me. We were talking about fantasy football yesterday, and it turns out that at the last minute we've discovered that one of the leagues that I'm in needs an owner. And this is one of the ones I mentioned yesterday, the Uber super nerdy one. Give you a little screen share here just so you can see it. We need an owner. So first person who either DMs me on Twitter or emails me at realkingpilled@gmail.com, you will get in. Just to give you an idea of what you're getting into. This is me here. I'm dear leader. So you have a salary cap. You've got cap space. You sign your players to contracts. You got to keep track of their contracts. You get different years. Give you different. You have a certain number of each duration of contract. You've got franchise tags. You've got fourth or fifth year options for rookies based on rookie contracts. We're right in the middle of the rookie draft right now, so we're just doing a snake draft. It's slow, offline, just going through making our picks as they come up, and then we're going to have a free agency auction. And the auction is really cool. They've got an automated system where you nominate a player, and then it automatically calculates what the different contracts are that are available to you to offer, and what the financial implications of that are. So the way that you bid on a player is just by selecting a contract. We're going to be doing that starting here as soon as we finish the rookie draft, which is almost over. The team, hold on, let me stop sharing so I don't air out some people's private information. The team that is available is this one. So yes, Taylor, it is a dynasty league. Dynasty salary cap. So you're going to have $172 million in cap space. The existing contracts on the roster are Christian McCaffrey, Dallas Goedert, Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, Luke Musgrave. It is a super flex league, so I think it's not technically super flex. There's one open flex that is effectively a second QB slot if you can get it. Luke Musgrave and De'Ami Brown. So you've got lots of roster spots open, lots of cap space. I think probably not very many draft picks because we're most of the way through the draft, and this is the first time we've realized that this guy is not available for us anymore. So yes, you have the second pick in the third round. So you're going to get some rookie scrub that might turn into something. Anyways, if you would like to join, we're looking for another guy. I think it's $15 a year to access the platform, and then we've got some buy-in. It's $25 or $40 or something like that. So if this is something that you want to do, just hit me up. Either DM me on Twitter or email me, realkingpilled@gmail.com. And whoever is time-stamped the earliest, you will get access to it. All right. So, okay, there was a comment back here that I wanted to make sure we highlight because yesterday we were talking about Andrew, who was finding out whether he had a a little boy or a little girl on the way. And it turns out, congratulations to Andrew. He found out he's having a girl. He says his pushover era is about to commence. Congratulations, my man. We are very happy for you. Wit says girls are so much fun, you will cherish her. He has 2 and 2. Both bring different challenges and blessings. Straight Buster, regular in the chat, he says, we are so back, possibly the most back we've ever been. Frankly, that's what they're telling me. They're saying, sir, we've never seen anything like it. It's really something. You nailed it. You nailed the syntax. Very good. Douglas Charles says, greetings from Seattle. The homeland. P&W pilled. Most beautiful, probably most beautiful place in the country. I don't want to live there anymore, at least on the western side of the state, but I cannot deny that it is just stunningly beautiful. All right. I did make it in the morning in the correct time zone. So let's get us started here. So this first, just got a little fun one. It's been going super viral on Twitter, so you may have seen it, but I was inspired by it, and I wanted to offer this to you guys as a fun hobby. So let's watch this video real quick. And let me make sure the audio's set up. Okay, all right.
Hey, you guys can't park there.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up!
So here's what I'm thinking. What you do is you in whatever city you are, you get a police scanner app and you sit there and you listen, and every time that they announce that there's been a car accident, you go find it and you go drive past and you drop this line on them and you categorize all the responses that you get. If I had the time and the money to go do that, then I would be all over it. So for those of you, maybe you don't have any kids, don't have a wife yet, this might be the way you find her. You know, she might be like, man, that guy's funny. Let me write down his license plate and hunt him down. Every once in a while, the girl autism kicks in, and it can be scary what happens. So that's a free idea for you guys. You don't even have to pay for it at all. I will offer it to you free of charge. In the spirit of White Boy Summer, we must celebrate one of the great accomplishments of a man. If you are a man and you've ever been around other men, you'll know the joy that comes from moving a massive rock and throwing it off a cliff or down a hill or wherever, and just seeing the splash or the crash or like if it takes out a tree, that's the best. If it's like rolling down a hill and it takes out a tree. Men throw rock, men happy.
Venga, ¿a piedras tirar o a quién? Viene a tirar. Cuidado, Pinto, que te va. Venga, cuidado, ponte más en el lado, tú. Ahí. Sujetadme, porfa. Este es un vídeo para piedras tirar.
Hell yeah! Woo! There's nothing like it. These guys are having the time of their lives. Life is good. We've never been so back. On the topic of crazy AI, here's another little AI video made, Luma AI made with Midjourney V6.1 images. So the images were generated by Midjourney, and then Luma AI was used to make the video. This guy says, remember, Avatar cost $237 million to make. Obviously not a lot of movement in there. That last one had the most movement. And it's the fine features, the blinking, the mouth moving. Like that's the hardest thing to overcome. But everything else here is holy crap. I mean, once they overcome that, which they're really close to doing, like just getting over that hump of making the mouth look somewhat realistic, then holy crap. the ability for storytelling, for professionally producing and mass distributing really effective, compelling, realistic storytelling is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see the type of stuff that gets produced with this. It is kind of funny that you go watch an old cartoon and it's not even remotely realistic. The mouth is just kind of like flapping and it's just like this pixelated blob moving around. Doesn't even have to be remotely realistic. But in this case, the fact that everything else is so incredibly realistic demands that the movement of the lips and the cheeks and the eyebrows and the blinking and all of that, that it has to be really, really realistic, because everything else is super realistic. If everything else was less realistic, then they could get away with less realistic facial feature movement. So it's kind of a funny little phenomenon there. All right. So I've got a couple of one-off stories here, and then I found the original video for that Japanese news talking about Yarvin yesterday. I found that. So I'll go through a couple one-off stories here, and then I've got a whole bunch of stuff on the big news of the day yesterday, and then some of the stuff going on in the UK, Musk and his battle with the EU, and then we've got a nice wholesome one to wrap it up. So let us dive in, first of all, to a couple of these one-offs. This morning, this clip's been going around all over the place of Caitlin Collins from CNN on Stephen Colbert. And I'll play it for you, and then Charlie Kirk has a comment on it, and then Wade Stotts, I think, had an interesting thought. So let's watch this video.
Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this, and he's not really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes it. I know.
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but.
Even liberals know CNN is functionally a Democrat super PAC. Now, I think Wade Stotts actually has the right take here. He says Charlie's right, but this is also the result of an overcoached audience. If you've ever been to one of these tapings, you know that they tell the crowd things like, "You're a part of the show. Your laughs make this show better. If you think something's funny, let the host know. If it's really funny, applaud." This means that the lame jokes get huge positive reactions, but sometimes it means that things that aren't jokes get huge reactions too. You can see Colbert trying to calm the audience down, but they've already undermined him by doing what the warm-up workers told them. Crowd reactions like this aren't so much ideological as they are Pavlovian. The audience was trying to support the host, but it was a misfire and an embarrassing one. It's such a microcosm of the larger issue. Him saying something kind of banal like that wouldn't be perceived by the audience as funny unless there's something in their subconscious saying this is discordant with reality. So I think what Wade is saying is true, and it tacks on to the deeper point that they recognize this is true. And all these different regime apparatchiks are so increasingly incompetent and have built up so many absurdities into their presentation of the world that they're naturally diverging from their audience because their audience doesn't even know what to do anymore. They don't have the simpatico. They aren't on the same page. They can't keep up with the constantly changing and updating operating systems. The whole thing is breaking down. This is the competency crisis. They can't even do the funny comedy show in completely. She's not coming in here expecting she's going to wind up with an embarrassing clip. This is supposed to be an inside baseball, just total easy lob, slam dunk, no problem whatsoever. And I bet you most people don't have any idea who Caitlin Collins is, and this is probably what she's going to become, one of the things she's going to become most famous for. This clip's going all over the place today. We have never been so back. Life is good. You must be white-pilled. There are so many reasons to be white-pilled. Here's a tweet from yours truly. I was looking at this tweet yesterday from Historic Vids. It says the tomb of the unknown soldier has been guarded every minute since midnight, July 2, 1937. And Jason over at the 2-Bit podcast has talked about some of that having a civilized society is sometimes actually in opposition to what is rational. Like there isn't exactly a rational argument for, you could kind of stretch to make one, but it isn't really rational to have, coming up on an entire century, to have 24/7, 365 for nearly a century, have people employed with guarding a tomb for who knows who. It's recognizing all the unknown soldiers who have died. But by definition, it's people that are anonymous, people who are unknown, people who are so insignificant that nobody even knows who they are. But this is what a civilized society does. I said one of the last vestiges of our civilization. Why do we have an institution like this where men are employed to guard a tomb of unknown soldiers round the clock for nearly a century? Because we're civilized, and it's what civilized people do. This is the sort of thing, this is good. It's great to have this amplified, to teach our children about this, to have respect and reverence for this practice, to go see it, go witness it, stand there quietly watching them as they do the changing of the guard. These are aspects of having a civilized society, having respect for our dead. Even if we don't know who they are, we're still gonna perform these rituals, showing them respect and honor, appreciating sacrifices that they've made, feeling attached to previous generations. At this point now, they're going on a century of, like, when was the last time that we had an unknown soldier die? It's going to be really few and far between now, but they're still doing it. Now, of course, the cynical take on this is the only reason they're still doing it is because this is the bureaucracies, and they just, this is how it works. They start a practice and then it just goes and goes and goes and goes, and there's no one who can ever pull the plug on it. That feature of going and going and going and nobody can ever pull the plug on it is not inherently bad. It's good to have that happen when it's a good thing. We want the good things to go and go and go and go and go and have nobody able to pull the plug on it and just keep doing them over and over and over and over. So yeah, that was a thought I had on that this morning. Got two more little stories here and then the Yarvin one. This is on the vibe of crazy technology. Owen Gregorian, don't know who this guy is, but he said Texas town. Oh, wait, what did that say? I post interesting news and opinion stories for Scott Adams. Oh, interesting. Huh. Never seen this guy before. I think I'll follow him. Texas town unveils largest 3D printed neighborhood with identical eco-friendly homes, but buyers are left shocked by prices. The largest 3D printed neighborhood ever built has popped up in Texas, but the houses come with a shocking price tag. Each of the 100 single-story 3 to 4 bedroom homes in the Wolf Ranch community of Georgetown, northern Austin. So this is like bougie lib, like upper class bougie lib central. Georgetown, northern Austin costs between $450,000 and $600,000. Honestly, that's not bad for this area. Coincidentally, the $450,000 cost is also the median price of a regular brick and mortar home in the Lone Star State Capitol, according to Redfin data. But for some, the ingenuity of the Wolf Ranch neighborhood warrants the cost. Lawrence Norzad, a 32-year-old business development director, and his girlfriend Angela Hontas, a 29-year-old creative strategist, purchased a Wolf Ranch home earlier this summer. Interesting, business development director and creative strategist is sometimes these sorts of jobs are real, and sometimes these are the proverbial email jobs. It feels like a fortress, Norzad said, adding that he was confident it would be resilient to most tornadoes. That is definitely tornado country. The walls also provide strong insulation from the Texas heat, the couple said, keeping the interior temperature cool even when the air conditioner wasn't on full blast. There was one other thing the 3D printed walls seemed to protect against, however, a solid wireless internet connection. Obviously, these are really strong, thick walls, and that's what provides a lot of value for us as homeowners and keeps this thing really well insulated in a Texas summer, but signal doesn't transfer through these walls very well, Norzad said. To alleviate this issue, an official said most Wolf Ranch homeowners use mesh internet routers, which broadcast a signal from multiple units placed throughout a home versus a traditional router that sends a signal from one device. The houses are printed using the 45-foot wide, 4 3/4 ton Vulcan machine, which pipes layer by layer to build the residential homes. This summer, the robotic printer from Icon is finishing the last few of 100 3D printed houses in Wolf Ranch. Icon began printing the walls of what it says is the world's largest 3D printed community in November of 2022. Compared to traditional construction, the company says that 3D printing homes is faster, less expensive, requires fewer workers, and minimizes construction material waste. It brings a lot of efficiency to the trade market, said Icon Senior Project Manager Connor Jenkins. So where there were maybe 5 different crews coming in to build a wall system, we now have 1 crew and 1 robot. And here's a video of the neighborhood. There's your robot. 4 3/4 ton 3D printing robot.
They start around 1,550 square feet, go up to over 2,000 square feet. And right now prices are starting in the mid 400s and they'll go up into the mid to high 500s, depending on the home you choose.
So for Northern Austin, mid 400s for a 1,500 square foot house that's in an upscale neighborhood is not that far above market. It's definitely on the high end, but it's the right place. It's the right neighborhood with the right demographics and everything to target with something that's kind of that's inherently kind of bougie like this. They're now this is I've been kind of out of the real estate game here in the area for the last several months, and I know a lot of things have changed in that time. So they may find themselves having a harder time generating a market than they originally expected to. But this sort of luxury, or not luxury, but like a really unique application I don't think they're going to have any trouble. Your average subdivision house is going to suffer, but I doubt these people are going to suffer. There's probably people who would be willing to move there from out of state just to live in a 3D printed house.
The wall, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like to walk in and see.
Yeah, you want to see the opening and see back.
Yeah, or even when you come. What's that mouth? Less inviting. Yeah. I think it depends on the buyer.
So given the housing shortage that our country's dealing with, and especially for affordably priced homes, it's never been more important for us to innovate, to find new methods of constructing homes that enhances how we build the homes and how our customers live in those homes.
That's really freaking cool. I mean, I think this is awesome. This is the resources that this saves, the efficiency, like being able to build houses really super efficiently is and cheaply, relatively speaking, is such a boon for the future. That's so interesting. I wonder if this, the laying it down layer by layer like this, I wonder if that makes the walls have more flex or more give to them, in terms of like, not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. Like they're not going to be too brittle and hard. They might have a little bit of like maybe somewhere between a concrete wall, just a straight like concrete slab wall versus just normal stick built. I wonder what the excuse me. I wonder if it's more flexible in that way. Now, of course, this is some people look at this and they say, "Oh, it's killing jobs. It's getting rid of jobs." Yeah, it is. It's also creating a whole bunch of new jobs because it's reallocating the jobs, but it's reallocating the jobs to a more maybe more technical, specialized, higher barrier to entry type of positions. So on average, the existing workforce going forward is probably going to, by default, with this across, and then this sort of innovation being made across a bunch of different domains, is going to be increasing. the average what's the word I'm looking for here? Their technical capacity, their technical ability. So the people who are going to lose their jobs are going to be the people who are less qualified or less able or less educated or less, whatever. You can't just, this isn't just like swinging a hammer. There's going to be a lot more, the types of jobs that this will create are going to be higher level jobs. This goes to, everyone says, oh, well, these, all the tech guys, all of them, they want all that cheap imported labor. So there's no way they would be anti-illegal immigration. No. That if you say that, that just shows that you're completely detached from the world right now. They don't want a bunch of incapable, low quality workers relative to the rest of the job market. They want higher skilled people because they see the direction that things are going. Things are going to require the jobs that are coming available are require much more specified capability. You can't just import someone, some Guatemalan coming across the border isn't necessarily going to be able to work on a machine like this or the jobs that are associated with it, the transportation and all that sort of thing. So this goes to the whole tech titans moving behind Trump and being very anti-illegal immigration. This is part of that. Andrew says, politically Catholic, says the concrete mixture has some modifications to it, mainly the addition of enzymes that help it dry correctly and maintain its shape. Interesting. Okay. Another interesting set of tweets that I saw here. So Matt Walsh has some, what I think is really good advice. I happen to generally like Matt Walsh, even if he says dumb stuff sometimes. In this case, he's absolutely right. He says, if you're a woman on a date with a man, this test may not work as well in the other direction, and you want to get a sense of how intelligent he is, just ask this. What historical periods are you interested in? A smart, interesting man will answer the question easily and eagerly, excited that you asked. But if he can't answer it or says something vague or names some historical subject, but then can't explain why he finds it so fascinating, that's a very good sign that you're on a date with a shallow, incurious, dumb, boring guy who doesn't read. And of course, the shitlib says the weirdo internet fascist is correct about this, but not for the reason he thinks. It's a good way to get a dude to reveal what kind of horrifying politics he has. That's it's good to see these people continue to be devoted to the extermination of their own kind. And Mimetic Sisyphus says 100% correct. Any deep knowledge of history means you'll almost certainly be on the right, which is not a rule, but I'd say it's very close to it. The more that people study history, there's just something about recognizing historical cycles that makes you naturally. What is the is it one of Conquest's laws that everyone is naturally conservative about that which they know best? So this is a manifestation of that. Okay, here's the Yarvin video. Yarvin being referenced on a Japanese news broadcast. As well as Richard Spencer is on this one as well. Check it out. It's all in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. Maybe you do. If you do, then congratulations. You'll understand this, and none of the rest of us will.
大統領選に遡ってから見ていきましょう。まずこちらです。2016年なんですけれども、後に首席戦略家になったバノン氏がですね、トランプ現象というのを作りまして、政権の生みの親とも言われました。で、この頃にはですね、オルトライト、もう一つの右翼、これをこう言われる白人至上主義の極右勢力というのも台頭していたんですね。そして今回の大統領選なんですけれども、アメリカに君主制が必要と主張するこの思想家のヤービン氏、この人の影響を受けた新右翼のシンボルと言われるバンス氏が副大統領候補になっています。そして今回インタビューに答えてくださったグロスマン准教授はですね、新右翼はトランプ氏を古代ローマ帝国に倣い、アメリカのシーザーとして君主にし、バンス氏へバトンを渡すのを夢見ているというんですね。そして理想はプーチン大統領だと語っています。
はい、理想はプーチン大統領だということですね。
6年の大統領。
Oh, Putin. I love the cardboard printouts as Melaforte. Yeah, that was like, so is this just like a Japanese thing or something? I see here at the end that they've got the TV screens. So like they could put this on the TV and go up. Like, I don't know if this is like a uniquely American thing or a uniquely Western thing to have like your big screen and go up and have your digital graphics and everything. And here they just do a cardboard cutout, and they got Bannon in there too. They clearly seem to have a better understanding of what's going on over here than just from this. I can tell just from this that they've got a better understanding of what's going on over here than American media does. All right. So now this... Oh, before we get into the Trump Elon stuff, there's a really good point here I wanted to share. So Noah Formica says, more Gen Z women registered for Trump. Let's go. +2. So he's part of Turning Point Action. They're out here at some conference or festival or something like that and registering people to vote. So he's got a couple of Gen Z chicks here covered in tattoos, et cetera, et cetera. And Scott Greer just nobody in the world is as smart as Scott Greer thinks he is on a consistent basis. And to his credit, he leans into it. He just acknowledges that he's a he's just kind of an arrogant, insufferable know-it-all. So that makes me like him better. He says, welcome to the new GOP. Her tattoo says, fuck it, we ball. And if I didn't know otherwise, I would think, this is like positive memeing. But I know that he's complaining about them being trashy and like this is your new GOP is a bunch of trashy people. And Zarathustra here has a great quote from Pat Buchanan. If you guys haven't heard this one, you got to keep this one embedded in there. He says, my friends, these people are our people. They don't read Adam Smith or Edmund Burke, but they come from the same schoolyards and the same playgrounds and towns as we come from. They share our beliefs and convictions, our hopes and our dreams. They are the conservatives of the heart. They are our people, and we need to reconnect with them. We need to let them know we know how bad they're hurting. They don't expect miracles of us, but they need to know we care. You can't tell me on one hand that you're super worried about they're just going to fortify the election and Trump isn't campaigning well enough. He's low energy and they aren't getting out there. No, the RNC is useless and they're not accomplishing anything and yada, 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 yada. And then turn around and when they go get Gen Z women, like the most anti-Trump demographic imaginable, they've got Gen Z women signing up. And now that's not good enough either. Oh, because they're trashy, because they've got tattoos, because they're wearing short shorts and showing their tummies. This isn't evidence of something wrong with the girls. This is evidence of something wrong with the men in their lives. Your beef is with the men in their lives, their fathers, brothers, whatever. If you have a problem with the way they look, your problem is with their men, not with them. This is the American heartland. This is the American base. If we are to have any sort of effective, successful presidency for the next administration or any administration beyond it, it's going to be because these people who a large swath of the quote-unquote right-wing commentariat is actually really, they performatively demonstrate that the reason they're so upset about all the shit libs is because deep down they wish they were the shit libs. They were the popular ones. They're like bougie coastal blue state types who are just contrarian. And they resent the fact that they don't get to have the popular sinecures. But they've got just as much contempt for the lower to middle class white American as a CNN broadcaster. They're just playing their role helpfully as controlled opposition, but they don't have a love for the heartland. They definitely don't have a love for the heartland like this guy.
President, this is Buddy.
Hi.
Tell them the story, please.
I am a Medal of Honor portrait artist. This is Sergeant Major Pat Payne, who you awarded the Medal of Honor. And this is actually his signature.
Do you think I could look like that if you did me?
Absolutely.
Give me that perfect jaw?
Absolutely.
All those muscles and everything else?
Absolutely.
So how is it? Did he pass away?
No, he's actually currently still alive.
Oh.
He is
How
currently
old?
active duty. He's about, I think he's in his 40s. He's still maxing out his
Is
fitness
he injured or
exams.
anything?
No, sir. No, he is.
That's unusual.
Yeah,
I know a lot of
it
guys
is.
usually are in pretty rough shape, right? Beautiful job you
Thank
did.
you so much. Thank you.
I want to look like that guy.
Mr. President, Mr. President, my son is going into the Army next month.
wow.
Can I get a photo, please?
Come on, get over here. He'll end up being a general.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Can I have
Get
it?
back in office, can I get an internship?
I think you could. Is this your mom?
Good on the kid shooting his shot. He's got the president's ear for 10 seconds, and he's going to shoot a shot. Try to swing that internship.
Yeah, may I have the honor to
That's how
hop
you
in?
turn out this thing. Come on, let's go.
Thank you.
Kind of a small thing here, but just goes to show his sharpness and his social awareness. He's sitting here talking to him and engaged with him, but he also is hearing the stuff she's asking and responding to it immediately. There isn't the slightest bit of cognitive fall off for this dude. He's probably sharper than I am.
I'll take it. I can take it. Give me that baseball. Sign one for the. Where'd you get the baseballs? Where'd you get them?
Walmart.
Would you sign my hat?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Give it to me. Beautiful hair you have. What are you covering your hair up?
I've got the, walk with pride. Thank you.
Can I take a picture?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's go. Come on, Mom. Come on, get in here. Come on, Mom. When Mom talks, we listen.
Thank
Let's
you.
go.
My kid's uncle right here.
Wonderful. I took 3 for good luck.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
He's just maxed out on charisma. You can tell this goes into the, I think is it the next story do I have queued up here? Yeah. All right. So probably the one thing that stood out to me the most in the interaction between Trump and Elon yesterday, the whole interview, was how natural and personally plugged into this and completely sincere and authentic that Trump is. It was like 11 p.m. Eastern time, at least, by the time he finished. They were there. They were going for 3 hours, including the delay at the beginning from a massive DDoS attack, as Elon said. And like the majority of the conversation, Elon could barely get a word in edgewise. Trump was legitimately in his element. He did not want to be anywhere else. He wants to sit there and he wants to talk politics and economics and trade, and this is just what he wants to do. He's genuinely happy doing this. At the very end of the interview, he said that, or the conversation, not an interview. At the very end of the conversation, he said, I didn't need to do this. I had a great life. The dude is a billionaire. Everyone loved him. Wildly popular and all sort, like red carpet lifestyle. The dude had it made. He's living the American dream. And then he chose to go through all of this. Anybody who tries to pass this off as him being just completely self-interested and arrogant and egotistical and all these sorts of things is just, I don't know what world you live in. The dude has put himself through hell. Imagine like getting a lawsuit. Like any one of these people who's just like, oh, he likes to sniff his own farts. Oh, he just is so obsessed with himself and arrogant, egotistical billionaire. And imagine one of these people being subjected to a single lawsuit for like hitting someone's dog or something. And he's gone through how many now? Is actually a convicted felon? Has had an actual attempt on his life? And he's getting right back out there without skipping a beat? He's genuinely a historic man. You don't have to be politically partisan one way or the other to just recognize this objective fact that if you laid out the facts of a man's life, didn't know anything else about him, you're a historian 500 years from now, and you're just going through the facts of this man's life, you'd be like, this is one of the greatest men of his generation. Objectively, there's hardly anyone who even holds a candle to him. And he's out here. I was at a Waffle House. He's out at a Waffle House, chopping it up with the people, taking pictures. I spent a lot of time around major celebrities, going through crowds and talking to people and signing autographs and stuff. Very, very exceptionally few of them don't have this vibe of like constantly trying to move toward the door, constantly, they're trying to pull, okay, I'll stay, okay, it'll do a little bit more, all right, let me get through this as quick as possible. He's just sitting here, just chopping it up, having a conversation. Hey, yeah, you come over here, you take a picture too. He genuinely likes people. Ordinary, insignificant people. He's genuinely happy being around them, just hanging out, talking to him. He cares about what they care about. He wants to connect with them. He does all of this naturally and organically. It was funny last night doing when we were watching the interview, I was in the voice chat on it says voice chat, but it was a video chat. I was in video chat on the Discord, the King Pill Discord, and was sitting there just listening to it, chatting with the other people in there, and I was sharing my screen and just scrolling through my Twitter timeline. And liking, retweeting, whatever, replying to people, posting my own thoughts on what was happening. And I noticed, for the first time in a very long time, I had shit libs in my mentions. Not because there was no like major person who dumped me into a different audience. These people were going out and actively searching key terms. A lot of the accounts were old too. They were created in like 2011 or 2012. And they had 200 to 700 followers, something like that. So they weren't just straight up bots, like low energy, low effort bots. They were either someone who's been managing the account for quite a while. I scrolled back through some of them to see what sort of stuff they were tweeting about. Did they seem like original responses? They very well could have been bots. It'd be probably impossible to tell one way or the other, but it was interesting. It was interesting all of a sudden getting these people who I tweeted one thing about when Trump took a shot at Biden for his IQ. One of the funniest things I've ever heard, listening to an 80-year-old dude sitting here on this X space just talking shit about his political opponents, and he says Biden was low IQ 30 years ago. And he goes, I don't even think he has an IQ. I don't think that the numbers go that low. So I tweeted about that and almost immediately got inundated with replies from people saying, oh, don't you know Joe's not in the race anymore? Oh, you guys just like sticking your nose in this guy's asshole. It was a bunch of lib responses, which was really weird. So someone was activated. Someone activated the lib bots to go out and respond, which yet again is evidence of the regime being in this sustained reactive posture now. So here's some of the numbers. This is the most. Let's see. This was tweeted at 10 a.m. this morning. Mario Knopfel, the Lord of the Town Square himself, retweeted it. He said, "The most famous interview in the world. X engages." Between 7:47 p.m. and 10:47 p.m. Eastern Time, Trump's space post got 73 million views. The conversation had 4 million posts. A smashing total of 998 million views were generated. And then, I thought I had some other, maybe I didn't. I must have closed that tab. I had some other metrics on it, but it was a staggering number of people. So first of all, there was for those of you who weren't there, if you weren't in that, I don't know how you possibly could have missed that. It was a fireside chat, but on Twitter, of probably the two most famous, influential men in the world, just sitting down and chopping it up in a conversation for almost 3 hours. So everyone was trying to jump in when it was supposed to start at 7 p.m. and nobody could get in, which is now, of course, the narrative for the legacy press. They're all saying it was glitchy. Glitchy was the word. That was the word that went out there. Glitchy and meandering are the two words that have been used They're the ones you could tell everyone got the talking points. So it was a glitchy live stream, and it was Trump's meandering comments or something like that, and he lied a lot. These are the talking points they're running with. But it took about 45 minutes for it to get started, and Elon came out in the middle of that and tweeted that they were under a massive DDoS attack, and that they had stress tested their servers earlier in the day with up to, I think he said, 8 million live listeners at once. So they knew that it could sustain that. This wasn't a matter of just not having the technological capacity for it. They were under attack. And I'm very curious to know who it was who was attacking them. Was this just some, random autists on the internet? Was this a nation state? Was this the regime themselves going after it? I do no. 6 million is not enough, Brent. It was higher. The number was higher than that. I do wonder. I'm imagining them setting this up, and they've got to know, given how things have gone so far, that they're going. The idea that they were going to get DDoSed in the middle of that was it didn't take a genius to predict. So I'm guessing they probably anticipated something along those lines, and honestly, it took them 30 or 40 minutes to get it fixed, and they were back up and running, which is pretty impressive. The old Twitter never would have been able to do such a thing. It would have been down for days probably. But it made me wonder if they had some sort of a trap set, or if they were able to track and trace where it was coming from, where it was originating from. I don't understand how any of this stuff works. So someone who knows better might be able to tell me that it's not even possible to do that. But it made me wonder if they were anticipating something like this, and we might wind up down the road hearing some stories about them figuring out who was trying to take it down. Anyways, got some good takeaways from this here. I highly recommend just go listen to the recording. You will not regret it. It was genuinely really good listening for virtually the whole thing. The last, I don't know, it was one of those where it's like, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up. And so it kind of dragged on for the last 15 minutes maybe. But so this is a good thread here from Vigilant Fox with some of the highlights from it.
All right, hello everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. So this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you.
I don't think I think we've been kind of numbed to like how quickly things have changed. We've been kind of numbed to the sheer absurdity of this notion. I just try to take yourself back, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years ago, something like that. When people were like, "Oh man, we really want to get Trump on Joe Rogan." Like imagine how it would just break the internet to have Trump on Joe Rogan. And imagine if somebody had told you then, "Oh, just hold on, just give it a few years. Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter, and he's going to turn it into a super robust streaming platform, and he's going to personally host and interview Donald Trump as he's running for president." And they're going to sit there. It's not going to be, they're going to sit there and meander talking about anything and everything that comes up for 2+ hours. This is such a crazy world that we live in, and it's changed so fast. And yet people, it seems like people are kind of like, "Oh yeah, that was kind of cool. There's an interview. That was interesting." Things are changing so fast that we just get kind of numb to it, but this is surreal. I was getting goosebumps yesterday just sitting there listening to this. Like, me of 5 years ago wouldn't have been able to comprehend that something like this was happening. So they talked about the assassination for quite a while. And he's just summarizing what they were saying. So they talked about it for quite a while. And one thing that stood out, you're not going to get it in this 19 seconds, but one thing that stood out about as for the 15 minutes or so that they were talking about it is Trump constantly kept deflecting attention away from himself. And I don't think he was necessarily doing this like consciously. I think this is just kind of how he is. He's talking about Corey. He's giving lots of credit to the Secret Service, very gracious and magnanimous toward them, even calling out the name of the woman that was there that was protecting him, crediting the crowd, basically crediting the chart, everything but himself for it all. It's funny that he has this reputation for being so egotistical when every time that he has an opportunity, he just reveals that he's genuinely pretty down to earth and humble.
I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick like what is the favorite, so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The roof of that building would be #1.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better location. It's like
no, that would have been the spot.
I mean, looking at your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
One thing I really do enjoy listening to with Elon is how very clearly autistic he is, which is kind of funny because all the libs they're all making fun of him yesterday, and how the turntables. He suddenly making fun of a dude for his I don't know his what's the word neuroatypicalness. I don't know. Suddenly that's on the table. Shawnee Mac says, was the lisp thing just from him talking down onto the phone? Yeah, it was from, it's like an artifact of the compression on the Twitter Spaces. You'll notice this if you listen to other Twitter Spaces. It kind of makes their voices sound funny. And then I'd imagine being like, I have a picture here, I think, of the way he was sitting. Yeah. Hold on. This is such potent meme fodder. Everyone's already going crazy with it. This is a powerful mutual Teal Bucks recipient. He was just sitting here, hanging out. They've also got the lavalier mic here off to the side, and it was kind of rustling on his clothes and stuff. So it just sounds, it's going to cause it to be, the audio to be a little weird from that. Let's go back to this.
Not pleasant. I have to be honest. I said there was blood. Not pleasant. I have to be honest. I said there was blood. I had more blood. I didn't know I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. You know, I was telling somebody you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly. And we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad
He's impressed with how quickly he moved down. It was pretty nicely, pretty quickly.
I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was for those people that don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even more now.
Maybe it's a sign. Maybe that's a sign.
It's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue.
He says the discussion then turned to policy, with Trump criticizing Vice President Kamala Harris for her hypocrisy.
Would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums. And many are terrorists.
I think it was interesting that first of all, these people are fake. That's just the most Trumpian thing ever. It's interesting to have a presidential candidate coming in and saying, no, the official numbers on the illegal immigration are wildly understating the actual state of things. Now, it's not 12 or 13 million. It's north of 20 million. And they spent a lot of time on this. They talked about the immigration issue for a long time, and it was obvious that they're both deeply acquainted with all the issues of it and very much not happy with it.
Kamala, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no.
We have 20 million people for it. It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the four, but it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. And
If you're blackpilling about the prospects of a Trump administration with respect to immigration, then you just cannot be satisfied. I don't know how more openly explicit and I don't know how much more they can emphasize this. I don't know how more dogmatic and explicit they can be about it. Here's the IQ quote.
And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything
yeah,
the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster. Hey,
sure,
look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. And
yeah.
Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting
Yeah.
force,
Sure.
and it's
Of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a
Yeah.
man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
Yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
God,
whatsoever.
Oh, that was my favorite line of the night. Yeah, the way he just spat those words out too, you could tell he feels that. The stupid threats coming from his stupid face. This Harry Bergeron, good friend of the show at Tysonberg on Twitter, he was tweeting this in real time yesterday. He said, I've called people stupid at least 10,000 times in my life and am better at it than most. Have never thought to say someone didn't have an IQ. Genius. Man, if you guys have not listened to this yet, you've got to go listen to the whole thing. The way he effortlessly drops Gavin Newsom, like you could like he doesn't refer to him as Newsom. You could tell in his daily life. He just effortlessly just dropped it in there, didn't even highlight it. And then Elon called Gavin Newsom the U-Haul salesman of the year, I think, for how many people he's pushed out of California.
The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening, and we'll end that quickly.
Well, I think a lot of a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible?
Right.
And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest,
and it keeps growing.
Mr. Theo Tugboat says Elon lectured on the Austrian view of the cause of inflation and people are blackpilling. It was funny watching the tweets going by in real time when Elon, a few times he stepped in and got really he got really autistic about specific econ 101 sort of stuff like that. And and everyone was like, Elon, shut up. Shut up. Let Trump talk again. And throughout the entire interview, Trump was just building energy, getting more and more into it, and just going and going and going. He was just cruising on pure vibes. And then every once in a while, Elon would step in with his autism and everyone would start yelling at Elon. It was pretty funny. I think that was... okay, we're going to talk about this here in a minute, so we're going to get Elon's comments on it. But this European Commissioner Thierry Breton, he wrote a letter to Elon. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But this is what Elon had to say about it.
And there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship, even on Americans from other countries. And I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks. And you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech. And I think that says a lot. And
so if you want to go watch it yourself, it's still on Trump's. Let's see how many views it's got now. Holy crap, 203 million views. Insane. 25.2 million tuned in. So 25.2 million people have listened to it. Over 10% of the people who have seen the tweet have listened to it, have hit play on it. It's pretty crazy. So this is a place to come if you want to listen to the recording later on. I had a couple things. So there was the picture of Trump just sitting there looking at it, which as soon as this dropped, I was like, this is going to be such a potent meme format. And of course it is. I think in this one, if I'm not mistaken, this is Lindy Man him looking at him being blocked by Lindy Man. I think that's what that is. This has been, I've seen so many iterations of this now, and I love every single one of them. Here's another shot. Ironically enough, here's Lindy Man tweeting about him. He says, horizontal lighting, wood paneling, high ceilings, colorful art, a room that puts you in a calm and creative mood to have a phone call in. This is his room where he was doing it, and you can't see it in this, but right over on like this area of the wall, he's got a painting of himself golfing. The most Trumpian thing of all time. So, okay. The next thing here was, a tweet from Aristophanes. He said, let me close out some of these tabs. He says, if I didn't know who these two men were, I'd assume this was a grandpa explaining world events to his autistic grandson in the cab of an old Ford pickup. That captures the vibe so well. He says, it's adorable and makes me miss the years when my great-grandpa would take me places in his old Ford with polarized windshield. And then shout out to the Gab AI, Andrew Torba here, immediately created this. So here's your image of the day. Here's autistic Elon sitting here with his headphones on with Grandpa Trump explaining geopolitics to him. Absolutely love this aesthetic. It's so good. So if you remember, I showed one of these guys' tweets the other day. This SV Date, a White House correspondent for HuffPost. He noted when Trump started calling her Kamala, he's the one who tweeted a Trump campaign official and said, like, what's he doing? Like, why is he calling her this? And the person replied, Kamala. And he said, what does that mean? And they said, comma blah. And he said, are you going to say anything? Like, is that all? Is that the only answer I'm going to get? And they said, comma blah. This guy has a masochism fetish or something like that, because he just keeps getting himself dunked on, and then he goes and publicly demonstrates to everyone how he was dunked on. So in the middle of the stream last night, he texted, he says, I asked the Trump campaign why the coup-attempting criminal former president is slurring his words and lisping. The campaign's response, must be your shitty hearing. Get your ears checked out. I don't know who the person is that's doing this, or if it's the same person, but they need to keep it up. Just shit all over these losers. Yes, just keep doing it. They deserve all of that and more. So, of course, we get the insufferable underlaid woman response. Kamala HQ tweeted out our statement on whatever that was. We're just getting all the millennial stuff now. I wanted to, there was two things, two communiques that came from the Kamala camp yesterday, and I want to compare and contrast one particular part of them. So this first one from Kamala HQ that was right after it says, statement on Donald Trump's interview with Elon Musk. Donald Trump's extremism and dangerous Project 2025 agenda is a feature, not a glitch of his campaign. Now, first of all, this is interesting because as Duffhead mentioned last night on, I think it was it on the after stream or at some point last night, Duffhead was, he was equally triggered. It's feature, not a bug. It's not a glitch. The phrase is feature, not a bug. However, glitch was the term that was used for all of the media coverage on this. It was a glitchy stream. So I don't know if they're taking their cues from this, and this is like the sign or something. This is like their bat signal to use glitch. They deliberately mangle the phrase, and then everyone else starts using it. So I don't know, maybe the phrase came from on high, and this is their usage of it. Okay, we got to get glitch in there somehow. It's a feature, not a glitch of his campaign, which is on full display for those unlucky enough to listen in tonight during whatever that was on X.com. Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Elon Musk and himself, self-obsessed rich guys who will sell out the middle class and who cannot run a live stream in the year 2024. Right after they had a live stream that peaked at like 1.4 million people. And when it ended, after 2 hours, there was still over 1.1 million people there, even after it started dragging for the last 20 or 30 minutes. It's got to be the largest live stream ever. I can't imagine there's ever been one that had more than 1.4 million people. Can't run a live stream. Now, what I want to highlight here is during whatever that was on X.com. So this was immediately after it dropped. This was during the interview. They sent out a fundraising email. Harris Walls. Right now, Elon Musk is interviewing Donald Trump live on Twitter. We're not calling it X. So during the interview, they say, we're not calling it X. Immediately after the interview, they say, whatever that was on X.com. So are they this airheaded that they get their little spicy phrase here, but then they forget about it or don't care about it? Is Kamala HQ and their email account, are these coming from different sources? It's very interesting. I'm not going to read the rest of this to you. I don't need to expose you to all of that cancer. But that definitely jumped out at me because that's not if you're like, no, we're going to call it Twitter. It's not X. And then you turn around and immediately after that say X.com. At the very least, they're just incompetent. Okay. Actually, I did have some more numbers here. So as of 11 hours ago, X tweeted between 7:47 and, okay, this is the thing that he'd said, that Mario Knopfel had shared. And this is, Elon said, combined views of the conversation with real Donald Trump and subsequent discussion by other counts now approximately 1 billion. And this was at 1:43 in the morning my time. So it's only gone up from there. Here you go. Trump rambles and slurs his way through Elon Musk interview. It was an unmitigated disaster. For a fascism-curious billionaire who loves cuddling up to right-wing loons, Elon Musk sure is good at making right-wing politicians look stupid. I guarantee you they had this written ahead of time. This whole thing was written before the interview ever happened. Maybe they went in and made a couple little edits, but it's like a sports ball reference here when you got the reporters who are watching the game and they're writing their recap of the game, and then there's some dramatic change of events in the last inning or the last 2 minutes of the game or whatever, and they have to go through and rewrite their thing. They've just had it written ahead of time, and then they went back and made a little edits maybe to make it seem like that wasn't the case. But it's like that Washington Post thing that dropped. They accidentally published something in the drafts of Jennifer Rubin writing some hagiography of whoever Kamala's VP was going to be. They had the headline, they had the pictures, they had everything already there, and they just had to come there and just needed to plug in the name and the image. Okay. Eric Doherty, again, to what we were talking about yesterday about the Doomers. New GOP voters are outnumbering new Dem voters in Pennsylvania 4-1 during Kamala's honeymoon month. So this is Kamala's honeymoon. New July voter registration. Republicans plus 253,000. Democrats minus 19,000. So there's Democrats are being, if I'm reading this right, Democrats are being purged because they're ineligible people are being purged from the voter rolls, and Republicans are being added very quickly. And here's all the states. All the states combined. So you've got Alaska. Republicans are up almost twice as much as Democrats. Is there any here where... Okay, Delaware, plus 31 for Democrats, minus 116 for Republicans. It looks to me as if... Yes, Republicans, except for Delaware, Republicans are on... Oh, Oregon. Oregon is another one. Oregon, Delaware. Yes. So of all of these states here, only Oregon and Delaware are Democrats ahead of Republicans. Something's going on. Someone's doing something to generate all these numbers. Florida is up almost, was this like 3.5 times? 3 times, about 3 times. And as he pointed out, Pennsylvania is up 4-1. Now, part of why this is significant is there was a story that dropped a little while ago about the odds of winning. So the polls are what they are. Take them for what they're worth. But even if we say, okay, the polls are complete bullshit, one of the big takeaways was that if Trump wins Pennsylvania, Kamala's odds of winning go to 4%. He has a 96% chance of winning the election if he wins Pennsylvania, which right now is basically a toss-up, and new Republicans are being added at a 4-1 rate over Democrats. There's someone's got some kind of ground game going on. Your favorite right-wing Twitter influencer may not be telling you about it. They want to tell you that everything is doom and gloom and there's nobody working on this and they're just resting on their laurels and they have no idea what's going on. But something's happening. I'm wondering if this story here is going to turn into something bigger, but it dropped in the middle of the space last night. Breaking via Politico. Authorities said Monday they are investigating a burglary at a Donald Trump campaign office in suburban Virginia, circulating surveillance video of a man inside the building with what appears to be a full backpack. The break-in was reported late Sunday at the campaign office in Ashburn. Are we going to get another repetition of history? Do we get to have a new Watergate? It'll be very interesting to see. Leading report has a quick clip here from MSNBC. Breaking, MSNBC's Mark Murray says neither young voters, black voters, nor independent voters have moved in Harris's direction in crucial battleground states. So we're being told that Harris is the runaway. Harris is picking up all the energy. She's got all the steam. Trump's resting on his laurels. He's lazy. He's got a low energy campaign. Does he even want to win? Kamala's brat, don't you know?
With young people, is there any data on that?
So what's interesting is that young voters and also ended up black voters didn't change all that much between where Biden was in Pennsylvania in July and where Harris is now. Independents did move in Harris's direction.
So young voters, black voters, and independent voters from MSNBC. If you want to argue with the polls, say the polls are bullshit. Yeah, obviously they're obviously bullshit. This is what they're reporting. They're the ones who have the incentive to fluff this. And they're saying in Kamala's honeymoon period, where they've dumped millions and millions of dollars into advertising, way more than Trump. This has been the consequence of it from them. They're saying young voters, black voters, and independent voters are exactly where they were when Biden was the presumptive nominee, as they are now with Kamala. Okay. So this morning, you get an article here from Politico. The nation's best hackers found vulnerabilities in voting machines, but no time to fix them. Oh, man. What are the odds? What are the odds that they would figure out that there's vulnerabilities in voting? I can't imagine. I could never imagine that there would be vulnerabilities in voting machines. I wonder who's been talking about that for years. Organizers and participants in the DEF CON voting village found cyber vulnerabilities in everything from voting machines to e-poll books, but there is no time before the November elections to fully implement their findings. Can you imagine that? Oh, our voting machines can be hacked, but nothing we can do about it. Sorry, it's too late. Just got to run the election real quick, and then we'll fix it once it's over. Yeah, let's just go with it. Well, this has caught someone's eyes. Aha. Now, I said this last night, and I can't remember if I said this on the show, but I said it last night that I did the VC during the stream, and then I was on Meta Prime's wrap-up show with Meta and Jason from the 2-Bit podcast. And another guy named, I think his name was Kootenai Nick. He didn't talk enough, but I liked him. But one thing I said is my prediction is that this election is going to be decided in the courts. And what that means is that the courts are going to determine it, and the determination they're going to use will be dictated by what the public sentiment is and what sort of political pressure exists for one side versus the other, which will be a proxy for which side has the power to force the outcome that they desire. You just heard Trump and Elon talking about how we will not have a country if a Democrat wins this election. We will not have a country anymore. America will cease to exist. Now we have 3 months before the election, the nation's best hackers found vulnerabilities in voting machines, but no time to fix them. What this looks like to me is a fantastic vector for an investigation and an opportunity for people like Elon to ensure, to seed the narrative, to keep the narrative amplified, so that when fortification happens, it can be immediately challenged. This is the only way that I think it can go. There will be fortification. The fortification is going to be really clumsy and stupid and obvious. And the question will become, who has the willpower here? Is the willpower to maintain the integrity of elections and chase down the fraud, will that be more? Or will just paper it over and don't worry about it and move on again? Will that have more willpower? Each of us can play a little part in that now. Starting now and going forward. We can all participate on various levels in amplifying this message and providing cover for it and normalizing this. My guess is 3 months is a long time, but by the time, if people are doing what they should, then by the time the election happens, everyone needs to be on high alert, anticipating, following along with this drumbeat of the Democrats are going to try to steal this election. They've been saying it for 4 years. This will be what determines how things move forward. If that narrative disappears, if people like Elon aren't amplifying it, then the odds of Trump being the president go away very quickly. This is my prediction on this now. So if you're out there posting and talking about how, they're just going to steal it, it's all over, they're going to steal it, there's nothing we could do about it, you are manifesting the possibility that they actually will steal it. Relatedly, here's a name I hadn't heard in a while, but J. Michael Waller on Twitter is talking about Smartmatic. The president of Smartmatic is among 4 indicted today by federal grand jury for bribery and fraud related to electronic voting systems. DOJ names Roger Alejandro Piñate Martinez in the news release, but does not identify him as president of Smartmatic. So 4 men, this is from justice.gov, 4 men charged in Philippine bribery and something. Smartmatic says that President Piñate, quote, played a critical role in planning and executing the world's largest election using optical scanners in the Philippines, and in Smartmatic winning the largest election contract in U.S. history in Los Angeles. Smartmatic President Piñate, indicted today for bribery and fraud, quote, co-founded Smartmatic with 2 partners. In the 20 years since, he has been responsible for carrying out successful projects in the USA, Latin America, Europe, and Asia, the company says. Smartmatic says that it's quote, or it's parenthetical, indicted president and COO, quote, continues to play a key role in nurturing Smartmatic's strategic relationships with clients. He also maintains hands-on involvement with Smartmatic-supported election events around the world. Smartmatic-supported election events. From today's DOJ news release, a federal grand jury in the Southern District of Florida returned an indictment today charging 3 executives of an election voting machine and service provider company and a former chairman of the Commission on Elections of the Republic of the Philippines for their roles in an alleged bribery and money laundering scheme to retain and obtain business related to the 2016 Philippine elections. According to the indictment, between 2015 and 2018, Roger Alejandro Piñate Martinez, 49, a Venezuelan citizen and resident of Boca Raton, Florida, Venezuelan, and president of Smartmatic, and Jorge Miguel Vasquez, 62, a U.S. citizen and resident of Davie, Florida, together with others, allegedly caused at least $1 million in bribes to be paid to Juan Andres Donato Bautista, 60, the former chairman of Comelec. These bribes were allegedly paid to obtain and retain business related to providing voting machines and election services for the 2016 Philippine elections, and to secure payments on the contracts, including the release of value-added tax payments. The co-conspirators allegedly funded the bribes through a slush fund that was created by over-invoicing the cost per voting machine for the 2016 Philippine elections. To conceal and disguise the nature and purpose of the corrupt payments, the co-conspirators used coded language to refer to the slush fund and caused the creation of fraudulent contracts and sham loan agreements to justify transfers. The co-conspirators then allegedly laundered funds related to the bribery scheme through bank accounts located in Asia, Europe, and the United States, including in the Southern District of Florida. So it's very interesting that we have the Southern District of Florida issuing an indictment now on this particular issue. One of the other 4 indicted along with Smartmatic President Piñate is Elie Moreno, age 44, a Venezuelan. Moreno is brother-in-law of Antonio Mujica, also Venezuelan, who was previous president of Smartmatic and reportedly Smartmatic's largest shareholder. So this is 9 years ago. Smartmatic chairman Mark Malik Brown admitted on Philippine TV that, quote, part of our technology is licensed from Dominion. Malik Brown was Deputy Secretary General of the UN and is now president of the Soros Open Society Foundations. Miami Herald is the first MSM outlet with story on the federal indictment of Smartmatic president and co-founder Roger Piñate on charges of fraud and bribery. He says, big news gets out first on X. We broke the federal indictment of Smartmatic president story at 6:02 p.m. Eastern, nearly an hour before the Miami Herald did. The Miami Herald says Piñate, alongside Venezuelans Antonio Mujica and Alfredo Jose Anzola founded Smartmatic in 2000 and gained notoriety after the company was chosen by Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez to replace the country's voting machines in 2004. Now remember, when everything was going down with Venezuela just recently, Elon was particularly vicious in going after Hugo Chavez very publicly. I don't know if these things are connected, but I definitely got my suspicions. The company grew by acquiring the much larger Sequoia voting systems in 2006, though the company later announced that it had divested its stake in that company. Antonio Mujica, who co-founded Smartmatic with Roger Peñate, is brother-in-law of another federal defendant in the fraud and bribery case, Elsie Moreno. I think it was Elie before. I don't know if that's a typo. The third Smartmatic co-founder, Anzola, is deceased. The three helped dictator Hugo Chavez manipulate the voting system to change the constitution and impose a dictatorship. So it was trending on X. Antonio Mujica, whose brother-in-law was indicted along with Smartmatic President Roger Peñate, is the CEO of Smartmatic. Here's his official bio. He founded Smartmatic in 2000 to create technologies that could help improve societies around the world. This vision translated into multiple patents and innovations that became the core of the company's products. As CEO, he manages the vision and strategic planning of the company. Smartmatic has successfully deployed secure election technologies more than 35 countries over 5 continents, recording and tabulating more than 6.5 billion votes, all with zero security breaches. Because they are the security breach. So Smartmatic on February 15 said election commissions must employ robust voter authentication mechanisms to guarantee election integrity. One way to do so is to match biographical data with biometric traits such as fingerprints, face, or iris. He says, why allow paper ballots and voter ID when you can make a fortune harvesting the biometric data of hundreds of millions of people while rigging the vote count as you choose? Smartmatic announced that they've learned that 2 of their employees have been indicted for alleged violations of the FCPA in the Philippines almost 10 years ago. He says Smartmatic grotesquely understates the problem. Those indicted are not mere employees. They are the co-founder, president, and COO, and the brother-in-law of the chairman and CEO. He says the foreign CEO of Smartmatic praised the successful efforts to censor conservative and MAGA people during the 2020 elections. Check his page to see how he was in lockstep with the Obama-Biden-Harris agenda. This is from August 4 of 2020. He says, Google announced steps to counter the spread of disinformation before elections. We continue doing our part to ensure that every election runs securely and transparently. 4 years ago, in this important 6-part thread, Byron York of the DC Examiner revealed an affidavit from a former confidant of Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez to show how the alleged Dominion Smartmatic vote-changing operation worked. He says, so this is from Byron York's thread. He says, if you watched Trump attorneys Newser yesterday, you saw Sidney Powell say they had, quote, one very strong witness who explained how the alleged Dominion Smartmatic vote-changing operation worked. His stunning detailed affidavit was attached to the Linwood lawsuit from Powell. And now that we're getting into reading stuff from her, I'm going to avoid doing that on YouTube, but I will drop the link to this for you guys to go read yourselves. He says, how much does that explain about the workings of the 2020 U.S. presidential election? Not a lot, but at the moment it appears to be the centerpiece of the Dominion Smartmatic theory. This is stuff that I suspect we cannot talk about openly on some of these platforms yet. If it was just on X, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I'm guessing that being on YouTube, I want to do what I can to try to maintain the YouTube channel. So this is an interesting prediction from Taylor Brown. He says, making a prediction now, Palantir/PayPal Mafia or someone adjacent to those groups will buy an election technology company at some point. That would be interesting. And yes, Padre Quinones did tease the idea of our guys fortifying an election. And this is something I talked about before. I may have talked about it with him. I don't remember. That everyone's talking about election fortification. And given the stakes and the types of people involved, given my theory about Mark Zuckerberg's role in 2020, I can't completely rule out the possibility of various different election fortification efforts, if you know what I mean. So he says, in November of 2020, I wrote that Venezuelan regime involvement in Smartmatic or Dominion voting systems posed a grave counterintelligence threat. The Bolivarian regime of Venezuela survived only because of the secret services of Cuba, Russia, China, and others, many sophisticated interests in sabotaging our electoral system. So something to keep an eye on going forward. This is part of the drumbeat, I think. We're seeing there's a number of different lawsuits that are being filed by Trump and or his proxies. Elon is consistently hitting on this. We're seeing even mainstream press outlets, the legacy press outlets, are touching on these stories. So this sort of thing staying in the conversation is a good thing. All right. Now for the European side of things. I've got a couple tweets here. Then I've got the European Commissar's letter to Elon and Elon's succinct response. Then I've got a brief article here from Pirate Wires written the day before the assassination attempt. Musk, EU wanted, quote, illegal secret deal to, quote, quietly censor speech. And then I got a nice wholesome one to wrap it out. So, yesterday, this video, or a couple days ago, this video dropped here. This is in the UK. I don't really need to give you any lead in because you'll recognize what's going on immediately. I'm going to speed it up just a wee bit.
Are you protesting?
No.
Are you here to pray for the lives of unborn children?
As I've mentioned to one of your colleagues before, I think that's a little bit of a leading question. No, I'm not, actually, today.
Can your actions be carried out elsewhere?
I'm not doing any actions. I'm just simply thinking silently in my head.
Okay. And why have you chosen this location to stand?
This is an abortion centre. I'm praying for those who've been hurt by abortion.
So, what I said before, are you here to pray for the lives of unborn children?
Yes.
So, yes.
I said no.
You said no.
I'm praying for those who've been hurt by abortion.
Hurt by abortion?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So, are you aware there's a public space protection order in place here?
Yes, I don't know if you know, but I have actually been arrested twice. I've gone to court and been acquitted for allegedly my silent prayers. I've actually received an email from the police telling me I'm allowed to be in this area. I don't know if you're familiar with that situation at all.
This is exclusion area?
Yes, that's right. That's why I was arrested previously. So yes, I'm very much aware there's a PSPO in place.
Okay. And are you aware that you are breaching the public order protection order in place?
I'm not breaching it, no.
Will you move from here to outside of the exclusion zone?
I don't see any reason why I would need to do that for the reasons I just explained to you.
Okay. So if not, why are you not willing to move outside the exclusion zone?
Because of what I've just said, because I don't think I need to move outside the exclusion zone. I've been to court over this.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to issue a fixed penalty notice now.
So what am I being issued a fixed penalty notice for?
Because I believe, and my colleague believes, that you're here to protest.
I just told you I'm not protesting, I'm simply silently praying.
Silently praying. The very definition of thought police. Have you got a license for those prayers? Eric Winter says, I can't blame AA for being blackpilled. The Brits are legit under oppression and attack on them as a group. Yeah, indeed. And I think a lot of the blackpilling sentiment comes, I think it is sourced from the European sentiments, intermingling with American guys. And I think a lot of our circle of people tends to, there's a lot of overlap with the other Anglos. And we're in bad shape. They're in vastly worse shape. They have a right to be black-pilled. But just because this is what's going on there doesn't mean we need to it exist as if this is actively what's happening throughout the United States. There's definitely places in the United States where this sort of thing is happening, getting close to happening. And we're seeing the playbook being laid out for us over there. But doing this in the UK and doing this in the United States are very different things. This thought was very good here. Guy just slowly working through the thought crime checklist is an incredible banality of evil moment. Very, very much. Relatedly, shout out to a powerful mutual here, old Tory right, Boltard strength. So, polling has been released on Brits' views on violence toward refugees and immigrants. So, green is agree, red is disagree. First question. When it comes to the refugee problem, violence is sometimes the only means that citizens have to get the attention of British politicians. 39% agree. Attacks against refugee homes are sometimes necessary to make it clear to politicians that we have a refugee problem. 34% agree. hostility against refugees is sometimes justified, even if it ends up in violence. 32% agree. Xenophobic acts of violence are defensible if they result in fewer refugees being settled in your town. 36% agree. Now, what's interesting here is 39%. So there's 7% of people who said they agree that violence is sometimes the only means that citizens have to get the attention of British politicians, but they don't think it's that hostility against refugees is sometimes justified, even if it ends up in violence. What do those 7% think? So they think that violence is sometimes the only means that citizens have to get the attention of British politicians, but they don't agree that hostility against refugees is sometimes justified. It's a very nuanced take, it seems. And if you compare these others as well, 5% of people do agree that violence is sometimes the only means the citizens have to get the attention of British politicians when it comes to the refugee problem, but they disagree that attacks against refugee homes are sometimes necessary to make it clear to politicians that we have a refugee problem. Anyways, as old Tory Wright says, look, if the question, do you support rebellion, is getting 33 to 40% support in a poll, it's a problem for the incumbent government. Just wait, give it another 6 to 12 months, and you might see these numbers completely swing. Shout out to our limey brethren. Hopefully we're things go our way here in the near future, and we can invade and liberate you guys. We'll be greeted as liberators. All right. So yesterday morning, Thierry Breton, literally European commissar, he's a commissar. He sent this letter to Elon Musk. He says, with great audience comes greater responsibility. As there is a risk of amplification of potentially harmful content in the EU in connection with events with major audience around the world, I sent this letter to Elon Musk. Now I'm going to read this for you, even though it is long, because I want you guys to see exactly what he's saying and not saying in here. So this is from Brussels, 12 August 2024. Dear Mr. Musk, I am writing to you in the context of recent events in the United Kingdom and in relation to the planned broadcast on your platform X of a live conversation between a U.S. presidential candidate and yourself, which will also be accessible to users in the EU. I understand that you are currently doing a stress test of the platform. In this context, I am compelled to remind you of the due diligence obligations set out in the Digital Services Act, the DSA, as outlined in my previous letter. As the individual entity ultimately controlling a platform with over 300 million users worldwide, of which 1/3 in the EU, that has been designated as a very large online platform, you have the legal obligation to ensure X's compliance with EU law and in particular the DSA and the EU. This notably means ensuring, on one hand, that freedom of expression and of information, including media freedom and pluralism, are effectively protected, and, on the other hand, that all proportionate and effective mitigation measures are put in place regarding the amplification of harmful content in connection with relevant events, including live streaming, which, if unaddressed, might increase the risk profile of X and generate detrimental effects on civic discourse and public security. So, you need to protect freedom of expression and of information, including media freedom and pluralism, and you must also employ proportionate and effective mitigation measures to inhibit that freedom of expression and of information. This is like the ultimate devouring mother perspective. You must do one thing and the opposite at the same time, or we will punish you. How will we punish you? You will find out. How will you know when you're going to be punished? We'll let you know. This is important against the background of recent examples of public unrest brought about by the amplification of content that promotes hatred, disorder, incitement to violence, or even certain instances of disinformation. It also implies, 1, informing EU judicial and administrative authorities without undue delay on the measures taken to address their orders against content considered illegal according to national and/or EU law. 2, taking timely, diligent, non-arbitrary, and objective action upon receipt of notices by users considering certain content illegal. 3, informing users concerning the measures taken upon receipt of the relevant notice. And 4, publicly reporting about content moderation measures. Publicly reporting. So you need to not just comply with us, but you need to grovel publicly and detail all the ways that you're complying with us. In this respect, I note that the DSA obligations apply without exceptions or discrimination to the moderation of the whole user community and content of X, including yourself as a user with over 190 million followers, which is accessible to EU users and should be fulfilled in line with the risk-based approach of the DSA. which requires greater due diligence in case of a foreseeable increase of the risk profile. As you know, formal proceedings are already ongoing against X under the DSA, notably in areas linked to the dissemination of illegal content and the effectiveness of the measures taken to combat disinformation. As the relevant content is accessible to EU users and being amplified also in our jurisdiction, we cannot exclude potential spillovers in the EU. Therefore, we are monitoring the potential risks in the EU associated with the dissemination of content that may incite violence, hate, and racism in conjunction with major political and or societal events around the world, including debates and interviews in the context of elections. Let me clarify that any negative effect of illegal content on X in the EU, which could be attributed to the ineffectiveness of the way in which X applies the relevant provisions of the DSA, may be relevant in the context of the ongoing proceedings and the overall assessment of X's compliance with EU law. This is in line with what has already been done in the recent past, for example, in relation to the repercussions and amplification of terrorist content or content that incites violence, hate, and racism in the EU, such as in the context of the most recent riots in the United Kingdom. I therefore urge you to promptly ensure the effectiveness of your systems and to report measures taken to my team. My services and I will be extremely vigilant to any evidence that points to breaches of the DSA and will not hesitate to make full use of our toolbox, including by adopting interim measures, should it be warranted to protect EU citizens from serious harm. Yours sincerely, Thierry Breton, CC, Linda Yaccarino, CEO of X. Now, part of the reason that I wanted to read all of that to you was because after this wall of nonsense bullshit text, this was Elon's response. I'm pretty sure that he made his sentiments clear. We have the wealthiest man in the world, one of the most famous men in the world, one of the most powerful men in the world, telling this fruitcake, lesbian-looking EU commissar to literally fuck his own face. This is beautiful. Javier Olivas says maybe Mr. Musk can arrange his Starlink satellites into a giant middle finger over the EU capital. That's the type of thing I wouldn't put past him. Faithful Faustian says Nick Land, quote, routing around the mind control apparatus is already regime change and more fundamental than any formal switch of government. Yes, this is very true. Honestly, I really feel for the people in the EU that have retards like this, quote unquote, representing them. Because, like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do to Elon? All he's going to do is punish his own people by restricting access to the public square and further entrench the EU, the government apparatuses of the EU, as backwards, retarded, unpopular. That's the only possible outcome from here. He has no winning hand that he can play. And Elon knows it, and that's why Elon's telling him to go fuck his own face. So a little bit of background on this relationship, as he alluded to that. On Pirate Wires, strongly recommend subscribing to the Pirate Wires, by the way. It's very good. Musk, EU wanted, quote, illegal secret deal to, quote, quietly censor speech. The European Commission wanted X to hire a team of people in the EU that would unilaterally oversee the removal of misinformation on the platform, a source with knowledge of the issue told us. This is from Brandon Gorell, July 12, 2024. So this is from a month ago. This guy just looks evil. You could tell on his face that he is into really disturbing things. Yeah, Faithful Faustian says, it doesn't look good to make threats you cannot cash. It shows incompetence. Right. On Friday, Elon Musk said the European Commission, quote, offered X an illegal secret deal. If we quietly censored speech without telling anyone, close quote, they would not seek to issue daily fines related to X's blue check verification system that could total 6% of the company's annual revenue. The other platforms accepted that deal. X did not, his post says. So he totally aired out the other platforms. It's interesting that they offered this secret deal. Quietly censor speech and don't tell anyone. And then in the letter that we just read, he said, you need to make these modifications and then publicly announce what all of them are. So they tried to make the secret backroom deal, and now they're turning up the pressure. Now you need to publicly report on them. And Elon's like, yeah, fuck off. Elon's post came after EC Commissioner Thierry Breton announced the Commission's preliminary findings that pre-Elon blue checks, quote, used to mean trustworthy sources of information, close quote. but now violate the Digital Services Act because today, quote, anyone can subscribe to obtain such a verified status. Therefore, the commission may, quote, impose fines and require significant changes, end quote. The EC wanted X to hire a team of people in the EU that could number in the hundreds to remove misinformation from the platform. A person with knowledge of the issue told Pirate Wire's editor-in-chief Mike Solana. X would have no recourse in these removal decisions, the person said. So they wanted X to hire a team of people in the EU to make decisions that they would have no recourse on, to police misinformation on the platform. And X told them to get bent. Everyone who's been complaining about this or that thing that's like not working on X, you know, they're making this decision and they're structuring this thing differently. And oh, look at all these things that are still, oh, there's porn bots on here. And oh, my favorite person hasn't been allowed back on the platform. Elon, fuck you, blah, 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 blah. This is what's been happening in the background. Quote, the objective of the Digital Services Act is to ensure a safe and fair online environment for European citizens that is respectful of their rights, in particular freedom of expression. EC spokesperson Thomas Regnier told Pirate Wires over email. It's so Orwellian. A safe and fair online environment for freedom of expression. So you need to police freedom of expression to preserve freedom of expression. Quote, the DSA requires a fair and transparent complaint mechanism for users. If an account is suspended, the user has the right to contest the decision. This means that decisions must not be arbitrary and users are empowered to protect their online presence. When an account is restricted, the user must be informed and has the right to appeal the decision. Yes, I'm sure they're very concerned about people having the right to appeal their decisions. Shortly after his post about the secret deal, Elon posted that he plans to take the commission to court if its preliminary findings are confirmed and it pursues an enforcement action against X. The Digital Services Act is a new legislative regulatory bundle by the EC that only became fully applicable this February and seeks to fine companies like X, Meta, and Google up to 6% of their annual revenue for violations, which include failure to remove, quote, illegal content once it's reported. What's considered illegal can vary depending on the specific national laws of EU member states, provided these laws are compatible with EU law. For example, content that's illegal in Germany must be removed for users in Germany, even if it's not illegal in another member state. The EC also accused X of failure to, quote, comply with the required transparency in advertising, as it does not provide a searchable and reliable advertisement repository, end quote, and prohibiting, quote, eligible researchers from independently accessing its public data, end quote, both of which are in violation of its DSA. In April, Elon publicly feuded with Brazilian lawmakers after he refused to comply with their demands to remove accounts without explanation to account owners or the public. Brazilian lawmakers had previously asked X to remove accounts critical of its regime under these conditions. Quote, we do not know the reasons these blocking orders have been issued. We do not know which posts are alleged to violate the law. We are prohibited from saying which court or judge issued the order or on what grounds. We are prohibited from saying which accounts are impacted. We are threatened with daily fines if we fail to comply, posted X's global government affairs team about Brazil's demands. X ultimately reversed course and announced it would comply with the Brazilian government's requests. Today, the EC's findings are, quote, preliminary, but per the EC, quote, if the commission's preliminary views were to be ultimately confirmed, it could entail fines of up to 6% of the total worldwide annual turnover of X and order it to take measures to address the breach. Looking at this reply on here. I'm concerned from reading these recent Pirate Wires articles that the trend being described is toward the effective curtailing of the free speech of Americans by countries that do not extend this freedom to their own citizens. This is similar to the way filmmakers in the U.S. have given China essential right. Oh, I guess I can't read the whole thing. All right. I strongly recommend going and listening to Orrin McIntyre's stream yesterday, talking about the absolute state of things in Europe and particularly in the UK. It's in the same way that things have changed for the positive in a lot of ways in the US over the last 5 years or so, where I was talking about earlier, like imagine telling someone that Elon Musk would purchase Twitter and he would host a conversation between himself and Donald Trump that 1.5 million people would listen to live. That would be the most watched live stream of all time. Billions of interactions and stuff from it. Like that would have been surreal, just surreal to suggest to someone a few years ago. By the same token, what's happening in the UK right now would have been surreal to suggest to someone. Like the free speech notion, the notion of freedom of expression is not an originally American thing. That's something that America inherited from the Anglo tradition, and just has the First Amendment just is like a unique encapsulation of that. The poor limeys, man. I mean, they're getting good and hard what they voted for, but I feel for the people who did not vote for it and have been dragged along. Anyway, let's end this on a positive note as we pray for our limey brethren. This is an account that I just started following that I highly recommend you guys follow as well, even for the cheesy posts. Positive Side of X. Our mission is to bring a smile to your face, make you laugh, and help you forget about all the negativity that's out there. I strongly endorse this mission. And this video here got me in my feels last night, made me feel all sentimental and fuzzy inside. So hopefully it does the same to you guys. Do me a favor and hit the like button as we're wrapping up here. We got 115 watching live and 58 likes. Give me a few more likes before you guys head out. We'll watch this video and then wrap.
This is a picture of my first date ever, which was going over to this girl's house to play basketball in her driveway. I was pretty nervous because I was a sophomore and she was a senior. That's right. I was courting an older woman. She already had her driver's license, so what were the chances that she'd go for a guy like me? And after all, we didn't really give off the same vibes. Still, I thought that if I hung around with her long enough, played enough guitar, she would notice. Turns out it worked. I somehow tricked her into thinking that I was a worthy suitor. And sometimes I still look over at her and think, I can't believe she fell for it. How long can I keep this up before she realizes that I have no idea what I'm doing? Well, after 14 years and 3 kids, she hasn't suspected anything yet. One night, not too long ago, we were both complaining about our sore backs, and I realized we're getting old together. And it's crazy because, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's weird and beautiful to watch someone you've known since they were a teenager ease so gracefully into middle age. It's also a bit terrifying because weren't we just kids a few years ago, and now we've got kids of our own? Do they realize that we have no idea what we're doing? Do they realize that their parents have made a pact to just hang out with each other every day until one of us dies? Do they understand that their parents are still those nervous kids playing basketball on the driveway, hoping that if they play their cards right, they might get to hold hands after? Something tells me they're picking up on it.
Your wholesome moment of the day. Wit says, I love this. I'm glad you guys vibe with that as much as I do. Sophomore kid picking up a senior chick. That's good stuff. This image right here brings back so many memories. Just that look, the way she's dressed, barefoot, out in the street, the way he's dressed, the cars, the make and model of the cars. Like this guy's got to be, they've got to be basically the same age as me. This is my growing up years. And then the different images throughout here. That one, oh man. Oh, yep, I've been there. I had those necklaces. This is my high school years. He picked up the senior chick, and then they're a little different, aren't they? Sitting around the fire, playing the guitar, the hairstyle, the shoes, all of this is just a major throwback. And then he's a man of culture and taste, growing an epic beard, making some beautiful babies. Life is good, folks. There are very many things to be happy about. So many white pills to focus on. We're getting old, and it's a good thing. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up today. 69 likes. Oh, there's 70. We had 69 for just a second there. Thank you to whoever pushed it over. Tomorrow morning, there will be no ASTROLABE. I will be sitting in the dentist chair. Half my face will be numb, getting a root canal. Perhaps in the afternoon, we're going to see how I'm feeling afterwards. May end up doing a stream in the afternoon, but we may just wind up skipping the show tomorrow, but we will for sure be back Thursday morning. So do me a favor and hit like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. There's a little housekeeping stuff. You could follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. And Again, if you want to support the show and you want to be a part of the best community on the internet, full of great people with good conversations and great memes and technical support and fun voice chats, the Schizo stream on Friday nights, you can join the King Pilled private community on Discord. Go to kingpilled.com and sign up, and we'll see you guys next time.